Gosh, the government went a little bonkers yesterday, huh? Like it's 7:43 a.m. on Friday, August 21, 2026. Welcome to the morning show with me, Troy Torres. This is the Friday news analysis, and what this means is that tomorrow I get a day off, and I'm looking forward to it. Before that, we're gonna have some commentary about that whole what was that whole E. coli boil water notice. Schools are closed. There's no more boil water notice. Schools are not closed thing that happened yesterday. And plus, also, a very important story that has come about that is not getting the coverage that it deserves. And that is an accusation by Dr. Ron McNinch that the Guam Election Commission twice violated his right to open government. And what's concerning is not necessarily the alleged violation, but the lack of media coverage about something that the media should absolutely be on top of as pretty near to a top story. We'll talk about these things on the other side of the commercial break. Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome to the show. Stick with us.
Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Poor Judy Wonpat. I mean, to be completely fair, right? For the past several months since she's been the superintendent of education, it's been one thing after the next, and self-inflicted scrutiny on her because of all of these different fires that she started, these different scandals that have erupted in the Guam Department of Education. So that when yesterday came, right, and GWA issues a boil water notice. It affects all of these different places, which include places where there are schools. And you can't have schools operating when there's E. coli in the water, or the possibility. You can't have schools operating when the water authority says, hey, we found something. There's going to be a boil water notice and all this stuff, right? So DOE, they send out this flyer. They post it onto their Instagram. They post it onto their Facebook. And Judy Wonpat, that she's not totally out of the clear here, right? She doesn't handle this well. I don't know. I don't think she has a very good handle on crisis communication or on how to react during a crisis, because so she issues a thing, right? And it's as to be expected, right? We're going to close these 14 schools. And a flyer goes up on DOE's Instagram and Facebook page. And we take it and we're like, okay, let's spread the word that. And so we send it out on WhatsApp, our Instagram and Facebook pages as well. And so everybody's like, because they didn't like write out the names of the schools either. So people are kind of confused. And some of them are easy to understand, like LPUMS. LP Untalon Middle School, but others are like a little more difficult to read, right? Like what do these initials stand for? And so there was that, and then everybody's like, for the people who comment first and don't actually read, they're like, is my school there? So it was this whole frenzy that was happening, right? And on top of the questions that there were about the whole water situation, which we'll get to in a second. I want to do something different here, and this is to exonerate Judy Wonpat from the criticisms that she got yesterday, because they are largely unfair criticisms that she got because of this whole thing. So DOE, if there's anything to criticize about Judy Wonpat yesterday, was her decision to just take down that notice, to delete it from their Facebook and Instagram as though it never happened, and not to timely replace it with something They ended up replacing the notice, right? So they said all these schools are going to be closed because of the water thing. And then they take it down. They don't provide any public reason for taking it down. Everyone's like, our school is closed tomorrow. What's going on? So we understood because we got a call from Damon Borja over at GDOE, and he explained, he was like, hey, there's something going on. Can you please take down the our flyers because we think that schools are going to open tomorrow? And I was like, how are schools going to open tomorrow if you guys, if there's this water thing? And he says, uh, we just got off the phone with GWA, and they said that they're going to take back their boil water notice. And I was like, what do you mean they're going to take back their boil water? They just issued a boil water notice. They said there's E. coli in the raw water, and that the treated water is not showing any E. coli, but out of an abundance of caution, they're issuing a boil. Like, how does that just change? We'll get to that in just a second. So maybe like an hour later, GDOE or GWA issues their rescission of the boil water notice, and it's quickly followed by DOE's schools will be. We've canceled the closure of schools for tomorrow. Schools will be open tomorrow, except of course for Simon Sanchez High School and Teason High School, which is a whole other mess, right? But what a mess that was, and everyone's like, what's wrong with Judy? How come she can't get it together? It wasn't her fault, people. Like, matter of fact, like how she handled it yesterday was how you would expect the leader of the public schools to address safety and health concerns for the students. When they thought that there was a boil water notice, they shut down the schools, and then they had to pivot real quick because GWA. Now this is the weird part, right? This is the GWA has some questions to answer because first they issued this boil water notice. Wait, hold on. Let me open it. First they issued this boil water notice, and they say that our water system recently detected fecal indicator E. coli bacteria in well Y-09, which serves the Barrigada, Ladi Heights, Mongmong Totu Maiti, Mangilao, Route 15, and Jigo areas. And they don't say, does it affect all of Barrigada or parts of Barrigada, all of Ladi Heights or parts of Ladi Heights? And so there were so many questions. Like in our Jigo chat, we were like, does this affect us in this part of Jigo? Because we thought we were Y15. Does Y09 affect us too? And so there were a lot of questions about who this affected. And GWA did not provide anything like that. And the next sentence is probably more alarming because yesterday was August 20. Their next sentence says, on August 18, we collected a sample from well Y09. Okay, if you collected the sample on August 18, when did you run the test and when did the test results come back? And why are you only letting us know on August 20th? Because they say the raw water sample tested positive for E. coli. The treated water in the distribution system is negative for E. coli. So they have a drinking water warning for those who are customers of well Y09, which, like, who knows? Like, do you know whether you're a customer of well Y0? Like, I don't know what. And so they say our water system recently detected fecal indicator E. coli, which blah, 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 blah. Gosh, they repeated this. What should I do? What does this mean? Do not drink the water without boiling it first. I think when we all saw this, right, yesterday, we're like, what is this? Is it 2002, like right over again? Is this Handum Taki? This is 24 years ago, if you all can remember, we faced this problem of E. coli in the water. It was so bad that the federal government sued us, and they were like, look, you guys are not abiding by the Clean Water Act and all this different stuff, right? And there was a massive outcry, so much so that the legislature created the Consolidated Commission on Utilities, wanted Adelut politics out of the running of the utilities, all this different stuff, right? And so 24 years later, right? 2026 minus 2002 is 24, yeah, 24 years later, and we get this thing from GWA. There's Hanum Taki again. And so they issue this boil water notice. They boiled or bottled water should be used for drinking, making ice, brushing teeth, washing dishes, and food preparation until further notice. Boiling kills bacteria and other organisms in the water. And one of the things I was wondering was, could I shower in this water? Because it does not sound right to shower in water that has fecal coliform, and we all know what fecal coliform is, right? GWA said fecal indicators are microbes whose presence indicates that the water may be contaminated with human or animal wastes. Microbes in these wastes can cause short-term health effects such as diarrhea, cramps, nausea, headaches, or other symptoms. They may pose a special health risk for infants, young children, and people with severely compromised immune systems. The symptoms above are not caused only by organisms in drinking water. If you experience any of these symptoms and they persist, you may want to seek medical advice. People at increased risk should seek advice about drinking water from their healthcare providers about drinking this water. I mean, it's just GWA failed at crisis communication, and the important questions that needed to be answered, they did not answer in this initial uh, news release that they put out. And I suppose informing the public, however belated that might be, about very few things about this whole thing, right? And then a few hours later, what time was that? Let me see. That was they sent out 2:49 p.m. So that was 2:49 p.m. And then last night at 8:07 p.m. The boil water notice issued by Guam Waterworks Authority, which affected customers in Barrigada, Ladi Heights, Mongmong, Totu, Maiti, Manila, Route 15, and Jigo, has been rescinded effective 7:30 p.m. The official rescission is below and attached. Customers of the Northern Water System, Barrigada, Ladi Heights, Mongmong, Totu, Maiti, Manila, Route 15, and Jigo areas were affected on August 20 were notified on August 20 of a potential problem with our drinking water. So no longer a problem, but a potential problem, right? And while our distribution system samples indicated no contamination, out of an abundance of caution, customers were advised not to drink the water without boiling it first. We are pleased to report that the potential problem has been corrected by providing an alternate source of water, and that is, it is no longer necessary to boil the water before drinking it. We apologize for any inconvenience and thank you for your patience. I mean, you guys didn't even answer any of the questions that needed to be answered. And like, first of all, from this new tranche of information, what is this alternate source of water? Did you guys do your testing on that? Did we make sure that there's no E. coli there? How did E. coli get into well Y-09? And if the distribution system was showing that there was nothing, as in the water that actually gets to us, then what was the big deal in the first place? And don't you have all of these stopgap measures to make sure that, you know, our water is clean to drink? I mean, let's set aside the whole Dildren fiasco for a second and whether we can even trust you guys to mean what you actually say or to tell us the truth when it comes to this E. coli situation. Like, and I think people are still like, should I boil the water? Because I don't know if I trust GWA. And hey, if you don't trust GWA, I don't blame you. GWA management has not been forthcoming and honest about many different things. And also, like, why aren't they answering more of these questions that people have about what the heck happened yesterday? And how is it that we're in 2026 and that we have E. coli in the water after we've invested so many hundreds of millions of dollars into the water and wastewater systems? And also, how are we having such big problems with such basic things all these years later after we thought that we implemented measures to correct the sort of political patronage system that brought about the problems that we had in 2002, 24 years later, and we're having problems. Now, on the other side of the utilities is Guam Power Authority, but at the very least, the problems that they're having, they've explained pretty well. We'll talk about their explanation for why Load shedding has been necessary for a couple of days already and might occur through sometime at the end of August, which is just coming up around the corner. We'll talk to you about that on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us. I personally think Guam Power Authority is one of the best run agencies in the government of Guam. Matter of fact, if I were to rank it, I would rank that the Port Authority is the best run agency in the government, and coming right after that would be Guam Power Authority. Don't get me wrong, I believe a whole lot of agencies are very poorly run and managed, but uh, being positive here, right? GPA, to me, and for many years now, it ranks up there among the top agencies of the government. And right now, I would rank it as the second most well-run agency. That doesn't mean that they're perfect. They run into problems. They were just like in 2002, right? When the federal government sued the government of Guam to force changes, and the legislature responded by creating the CCU, and by in a sense depoliticizing the management of the utilities. Uh, we also were sued for violations of the Clean Air Act and something else I can't remember. Anyway, so there were big problems with the power system, and those problems reared their ugly head after Chataan and Pangsona in 2002. And so there were a lot of changes that needed to be made, modernizations, changes in management, in how things were run in operations, and a lot of changes have happened since then. The CCU needs to be commended for the job well done that they've done with, especially with GPA. They have made significant strides with GWA. We just over the past few years, have run into issues with GWA because of, I would say, management. GPA has been a different story. It has been just consistently well run. There have been these hiccups that have to do with the age of our system, and so people are like, why don't you put the system underground, and so that we don't have these problems? And it's like, you realize it's going to cost $6 billion to put the system underground. Like, do you have $6 billion? Do you think that 6 billion divided by 50,000 residential customers plus however many thousand business customers are going to be able to absorb the impact of $6 billion over a 30-year bond? No, where our power bills are going to be skyrocket high if that happened. The only way that we could move the power system underground is if we had a significant grant of money from the federal government or otherwise from the military, which is something that the administration and GPA say that they're working on. I don't know. I don't have an update on that. Or maybe Congressman Moylan's working on it. I don't know. I'm not sure. We should probably ask. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So there have been these hiccups, right, that GPA has had, but it deals with things that are largely outside of their control. Whenever these stories come out about John Beneventi got a raise, or like the GPA line crews or their management got a raise, I never say anything about it because I have nothing against it. Like they've just been such a well-run agency. I have no problem with, less than a penny on the dollar that I pay in my power bill going to pay raises for GPA line crews, management, their general manager, whatever. That's just me. That's my personal opinion. Now, recently, GPA placed online something that is long awaited, and that is the mega power plant at Ukudu, the one that generates 198 megawatts of electricity. There's a problem that has recently come up. Pardon me. And I think we have to, I'm not sure. I haven't read this news release in full. I just read the first part. So I don't know if they actually answer the questions that I might have about this, but they explain what's going on. Because with the 198 megawatts plus the other generation that we have throughout the island, we should have sufficient capacity to power this island at peak demand. But that hasn't been the case for, I think, twice this month already, and might not be the case through the end of this month. This is what GPA says in an update that they released yesterday, which was completely overshadowed by E. coli in the water, by the way. GPA is providing an update on current generation conditions at Ukudu as Ukudu continues to operate at reduced capacity, and several of GPA generating units require scheduled maintenance and or repairs. The Ukudu power plant has been providing energy to the island-wide power system since December 2025 and is designed to provide approximately 198 megawatts in combined cycle operation. With its steam turbine currently offline for repairs, the plant's 3 combustion turbines are providing a reduced output of approximately 90 megawatts to the grid. So basically, less than 50% of Ukudu's total capacity is being sent into the grid, which is a significant reduction of more than 100 megawatts. GPA is monitoring the status of the repairs. Guam Ukudu Power, the independent power producer that owns and operates the plant, anticipates returning the steam turbine to service by end of August. So without reading the rest of this, because I only read that part up until yesterday, then the whole E. coli thing happened. What I'm wondering is why the steam turbine needed to be taken offline for repairs. Is this like a routine maintenance thing, which we should all understand and be grateful that routine maintenance happens, right? And then aside from that, we should understand that the power capacity that GPA is building is not at their total according to their plan. I think it's called their integrated resource plan or something like that. Like GPA is pursuing several solar power plants. I'm not sure if they're pursuing any replacements to the other generators around the island, but I know that that they are on the way to bringing up different solar plants that will provide like scores of megawatts more of electricity. And matter of fact, at a certain point, they'll be able to significantly reduce our power bills once they reach a certain solar threshold. Like people complain, right? Like, oh, we have all this solar or the windmills or whatever. Why haven't they reduced our bills? It's because they haven't met the financial threshold yet. There's a certain threshold that they have to surpass in megawatt generation through these solar farms in order to be able to financially, in order for it to make financial sense to reduce our bills, because they still have to buy oil right now. So anyway, continuing, GPA recognizes that customers expected the addition of Ukudu to increase generation reserves and significantly reduce the likelihood of load shedding. Yes, very true. With the steam turbine offline, however, the plant is temporarily providing less than half of its design capacity. Upon the commissioning of Ukudu, GPA was required to permanently shut down Cabras Power Plant 1 and 2, resulting in a loss of 50 megawatts of capacity. Oh, I didn't know that. Very good. Okay. Because those were polluting us. GPA is working to return unavailable capacity by completing maintenance and overhauls on generating units that had been deferred during the previous capacity shortage to keep those units available. This work was scheduled after Ukudu added capacity to the system. The combination of Ukudu's reduced output, scheduled maintenance, and unexpected unit repairs has tightened generation reserves in recent weeks. Okay, that makes sense. To mitigate the current generation shortfall, GPA is working to return unavailable units to service as quickly as practicable, adjusting maintenance schedules where possible, maximizing available generation across the system, and closely monitoring peak demand and reserve capacity. On Tuesday, August 18, at about 5:47 a.m., available generation capacity had decreased from 259 megawatts to approximately 216 megawatts, while emergency repairs were performed on PD Unit 8. The repair was targeted to be completed by 5 p.m., but unfortunately, the unit experienced an additional issue and didn't return to service until around 9 p.m. last night, which subsequently ended load shedding. Guam Ukudu Power initially took the steam turbine offline on June 23 to address operating issues on the steam turbine, with a planned return to service by July 8. Upon completion of the repairs, they identified issues with the steam turbine, turning gear spring supports that also required replacement. They kind of lost me there. That went right over my head. Because these parts are special order components, the steam turbine outage has been extended to approximately August 28. The recent load shedding and extended steam turbine outage have also raised questions about Ukudu's long-term reliability. Okay, I'm glad that they're addressing this. GPA General Manager John Beneventi said, quote, "The issues identified during the plant's early operating period are not out of the ordinary, but they must be corrected now to support reliable performance over its operating life." I'd like to know more about how it's not out of the ordinary, but also I agree with the concern. Is this going to happen again? Like, why did this happen so soon after this brand new power plant began operating? He continued, quote, "We understand why customers have questions when a new plant experiences extended repairs. Yes. Some adjustments and repairs during the early operation of a new generating facility are expected, but that does not lessen the importance of addressing them. The priority is to identify and correct these issues now, so Ukudu performs reliably over the long term, particularly because the plant will ultimately be transferred to the people of Guam under the 25-year build-operate-transfer agreement," Beneventi said. GPA continues to monitor Ukudu's output, efficiency, and overall performance to ensure the plant performs as required under the energy conversion agreement. Load shedding remains a last resort and is implemented only when customer demand exceeds available generation. GPA continues to coordinate maintenance and repairs across the system to maximize available capacity and minimize impacts to customers. A copy of the most current potential rotating power outage schedule released in July 2026 is attached and remains the latest update. Customers can help reduce pressure on the system by conserving electricity during the evening peak period, particularly between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m., while generation reserves remain constrained. GPA will continue to provide updates on generation availability and the Ukudu steam turbine repair. See, that's how you answer questions. You don't wait for the people, especially, or for the reporters to ask you the questions. You put it all there for everybody to see, and you explain things. You explain the why of things, and then you anticipate what it is that people are going to be concerned about, and you answer those. I mean, it's just GPA's communications team. They do a very good job, and they need to convince management over at GWA to allow their communications team over there to do this type of job. Anyway, my questions are answered based on that release, and I hope your questions are too. On the other side of the commercial break, I want to talk about a complaint that Dr. Ron McNinch has made about his rights under the Open Government Act being violated allegedly by the Guam Election Commission. We'll talk about that on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us.
You asked, we delivered. Guam AutoSpot is extending our overstock sell-off with the hottest deals on island, like our 2025 GMC Canyon with $4,000 off. Or slide into a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, starting at just $24,995. September is your chance to drive big and save even bigger. Visit us today or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO. Guam AutoSpot, where the savings never stop.
I was at the Micronesia Mall yesterday, and who here loves eating in the food court? Like, since I was a kid, I've loved eating in the food court. And I don't know. Like some. The only problem is I remember the food court being brighter before. Like it's kind of dark right now. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Do you have a reference from what I'm saying? So I remember the food court being brighter before. Anyway, that would be my only complaint. So anyway, I went there because I wanted some hot wings, and I ate some hot wings with red rice over at the food court. It was delicious. I wanted to tell you that because the KFC commercial and also they're an advertiser, and we love our advertisers because they keep us in business and they never ask us to do anything on the news side. We're always respecting our ethics, and so we love our advertisers. Speaking of ethics, Dr. Ron McNinch, um he has made a complaint. Now, where is it? Let me go. Hold on. I know I didn't bring it up on time. McNinch. Oh, I think it's under govguam at gmail.com. He lodged a complaint with the Guam Election Commission alleging that the commission has violated his rights under the Open Government Act. Oh, there it is. And Dr. McNinch is not the first. Probably is not even the latest, because these alleged violations happened on August 1 and August 15. It's been 6 days since August 15. I guarantee you someone else's open government rights have been violated. Lindsay Adams Bennett, who runs a child care center, she tried to utilize her rights under the open government law. Under the Freedom of Information law. When she went to Department of Public Health and Social Services and requested under her right of inspection under the law to inspect public records, clearly public records, and she was made to wait, and then she was told that she would not be granted access to these records and to come back on a. I mean, these guys are just blatantly violating the law, and it's not such a surprise in this administration. I remember when these violations of the FOIA and the OGA were propping up in 2019, and I remember thinking, like, are you guys crazy? Like, how could you violate these laws? These are laws that were, I mean, it was the exception rather than the rule in the Calvo administration and in the Camacho administration to violate any of these laws. And normally it was about something that was very, very big, and like it became a very big deal in the media. And this is the main part of the point, is that where is the media? Because the media is supposed to be the number one defender of a person's rights under the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Government Act. Matter of fact, I believe it was the media, at the time, the Micronesian Society, get down, not today. The Micronesian Society for Professional Journalists that drafted the Freedom of Information law that we have. And so where is the media in all of this? When Ron McNinch says that, and he provides details of events on August 1 and August 15 dealing with the Guam Election Commission, that his rights under the open government law were violated, the media needs to be all over this. Now, the first story that I'm putting out today is about this one. So this is what he wrote. He says, "Dear GEC Board, the Guam Election Commission held regular meetings on August 1 and August 15, 2026. The notice, remember, August 1 is the primary election. The GEC meets at the University of Guam Fieldhouse in order to conduct the primary election tabulation. Okay, the notices to these regular meetings are at point 1 below. Guam has an open government law that is in Section 5 GCA 8 of the Guam Code. This law requires public agencies to hold meetings that are open to the public. The law is linked at footnote 2 below. I want to complain about these meetings. On August 1, I attended the GEC meeting at the UOG Fieldhouse per the public notice. I had several arranged interviews with media at this venue. In the last 22 years, I have attended nearly every tabulation directly or indirectly without any problems. Shortly after 9 p.m., I was told by a Guam Police Department officer that I needed to leave the meeting area. I asked the officer to please allow me to appeal this point to GEC staff, and an appeal was made. I asserted that this was a published public meeting and that the meeting should be open. I was told that I did not have a press pass and that I needed to have one. While I disagreed, I complied with the request to leave the meeting. I spent the next 4 hours in the fieldhouse entrance area and was allowed in on 2 occasions for interviews by temporarily borrowing a press pass of the media interviewing me. Following the meeting, I spoke briefly to one GEC board member about my concerns, and I expressed my concerns. I was told no other person was asked to exit, and there were apparently others in the building during the meeting. I decided to wait until the primary results were finalized to complain about this. I was going to complain at the agenda public comment section of the meeting, but was not able to access the meeting area. On August 15, I briefly attended the published GEC board meeting at the Westin Hotel. I sat for a few minutes in the public observation area. On the agenda for this regular meeting, I had two items listed. One related to an initiative I had proposed, the other item related to a lawsuit against the GEC and others in federal court. Since tabulations were ongoing, I asked the staff if there was an estimate for when the tabulation would end. I was told it would take more than 1 hour. I stepped out to make phone calls. I was then called by another person and was told that the meeting was closed to the public. I believe that the open government law was violated in these GEC meetings. There was simply no reason to have the police remove me on August 1. My desire to observe public proceedings was chilled, and I also was not allowed to speak at this meeting. Further, on August 15, I was told by a third party that the GEC meeting had been closed to the public, and this chilled my desire to observe the proceedings. It also prevented me from voicing concerns in the public participation section. I would like to ask the board to review these concerns and take corrective action to comply with Guam laws. I would also like to know who complained about me attending the August 1, 2026 meeting. Sincerely, Ron McNinch. Now, myself, yourself, like, we don't know the exact circumstances of all this. We don't know if there was an actual violation that occurred. What we do know is that there are allegations that violations of the Open Government Act occurred. Perhaps the reason that the meeting on August 15, at the time that McNinch wanted to re-enter, was an executive session portion of the meeting. Those are not open to the public. The Open Government Law makes exceptions for that. Perhaps there was a security issue that I'm not sure if a security issue prevails over a person's right in the open government law. But perhaps there was a security issue on August 1 because it's the primary election and there's concerns about the security of the ballots because the board meets very close to the tabulating machines. I don't know if that's also a thing. All I know is that Dr. McNinch, who used to be a member of the board, matter of fact, the Guam Election Commission, he used to be a member of the commission. He is alleging that his open government law rights have been violated. And that's a very big deal. And the big deal to us at Kandit isn't the allegations themselves. It's that this is not getting the attention that this needs to have, not deserves to have, but that it needs to have, because we cannot become complacent about people's rights to open government and freedom of information. This is the hallmark of democracy and the people's ability to be able to govern their government. And you can't do that without having information. And so when the government that you're supposed to own regulates your access to the information so that you can make decisions about this government, then it's no longer a government that works for us, but a government that is dictating things to us. And we know where stuff like that goes. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a beautiful day. Be safe out there. It's Friday. Enjoy yourselves. Be joyful. Be gleeful. Forgive. I should probably take heed of that too. Go to church this weekend. I love you all. I'll pray for you all. Thank you.